Now, we already said this, that choral reading, it helps with fluency, but more specifically, it helps with that intonation in fluency, right? The proper expression and pronunciation of words, tricky words within a story. So let's try this one. Everyone take a moment and read this question over, thinking about choral reading and fluency. Now, this is with an ESL student, so we're working with an English language learner. They engage in a lot of choral reading activities. Let's see here. The teacher reads a brief age and level appropriate poem or big book aloud. So they're doing some sort of read aloud activity. And we're talking about some aspect. How does this activity help with oral language? So let me get this right. How does this read aloud activity and choral reading activity for an English language learner help them with their oral language? Is this helping them with comprehension? Is this a comprehension thing? Yes or no? No, it's not. But let's look at that word a little closer. It's actually not comprehension, it's listening comprehension. So what does that phrase mean, this tier 3 phrase? What's that mean? It's part of oral language, but what aspect of oral language is listening comprehension? Think receptive and expressive vocabulary. Receptive is what a student hears. Expressive is what they're able to produce, but listening comprehension is what they hear and understand. So listening comprehension is how much the student hears and understands. Okay, no, it's not testing their listening comprehension. Is it a strategic competence? So that's a really good one. Is it this? What's strategic competence? Who doesn't know? Okay, so strategic competence has to do with the skill involving, it's everything you do when you don't know a language. It's all the strategies that you do to try and communicate when you lack a language. Maybe you use facial expressions and hand gestures. Maybe you, so it's all the things that you do to try and bridge the gap in communication when you're lacking the oral language. You don't know language one to communicate. You try and do a series of other things to communicate, to convey ideas. We're not doing that. Okay, these are two more advanced ideas. Maybe more advanced, maybe in the realm of like if you're taking an ESL or SEI exam, some sort of, much more language-based exam. We don't have to worry about that quite yet for foundations of reading. Is this an activity involving semantics and syntactics? Is that what we're doing? What's stuff involving syntax? What's that? Syntax is what? Help me out. I know these are all new. This is a new question, team, but that's why we're doing it. Syntax has to do with grammar, and semantics has to do with what? Making sense. So we're not doing a strategy involving helping a student analyze the syntactical and semantic context clues within the sentence. Cross it out. We're not having to do with things involving grammar or meaning. Okay, is it involving, so now we're down to A or B. Team, I know this is a hard question. I want you to take a vote. Which one is it? It's not C, it's not D. Take a guess. Everyone put something in. Come on, type something in. Even if you don't know, it's okay. Don't worry about it. We have this teacher here doing choral reading and at an elementary school level, probably entering, emerging, maybe even developing, but sort of in that beginner realm here. And they're doing that read aloud. And this is helping, this is helping with fluency, but choral reading is connected to what? What aspect of fluency is choral reading? It helps out with what? It helps out with what? Intonation. Intonation of words. So remember, choral reading It specifically helps out with intonation of words, helping the students get the right pronunciation and intonation of words. Okay, who found that a little hard? Why is it not B? Because B has the word fluency in it. Why is it not B? I see the word fluency. Why isn't it fluency? Yeah, everyone underlined the word conversational fluency. Now, conversational fluency is a little bit different. Conversational fluency is everyday communication, right? And this is when, and the teacher right now, when they're doing choral reading, that's not everyday talk, right? Choral reading is not everyday fluency. So when you do a read aloud and there's no choral reading, that helps with conversational fluency and everyday reading. But when we do read aloud, it just really just targets that aspect of pronunciation of words. Tricky stuff. The answer here is A. Give me a thumbs up. Just curious, what is pragmatic competence? Look at all these tier 3 ideas here. What's pragmatic competence? It's not the answer, but what is it? The answer is A, but what's pragmatic competence? Type something in. Someone knows. Okay, so let's write down the ability to communicate socially. Pragmatic competence is the ability to communicate socially using verbal and nonverbal cues, like gestures, like waving your hand or smiling, facial expressions, or tone and intonation in the voice. Pragmatic competence has to do with social communication involving verbal and nonverbal communication, verbal and nonverbal language. Okay, so here's the thing, team. When you go and do these practice exams, I need you to know why it's A, but then for yourself, you need to see if you can go deeper and dig a little deeper and just clarify some of these other tier 3 words. That's going to be your challenge now, is not only to know it's A, but to analyze why B, C, and D are wrong. So I'm going to clear this off real quick. Look at these words that are here, these phrases, right? Remember, this test is all about vocabulary. You know the vocabulary or you don't. And so if you know the vocab, you'll do better. Which one of these words, type it in please, which one has to do with hearing and understanding what you hear? What's that? Which one of these words that I've circled has to do with what you hear and understand? That's what? Listening comprehension. Which one of these words has to do with grammar? Which one of these words has to do with grammar? Syntax. Which one of these words has to do with meaning? Meaning. Which has to do with meaning? Semantics, right? Which one of these words has to do with building fluency, but in everyday conversation? Conversational fluency. Which one of these words has to do with proper pronunciation, intonation, speed? Well, this one right here, right? Which one of these has to do with your ability to communicate in a social setting, social communication, using verbal and nonverbal cues, pragmatic competence? Hi team, this is Chris Abraham from Go Academy. This spring, Go Academy is turning all the workshops into webinars. These classes are going to be covering the same material as a regular workshop. We're going to do them in 7 hours, and they're held on Saturdays and Sundays in the morning. I encourage you to check out a webinar. I'm sure you'll find them very helpful.